What's up?
Yo, what's going on, brother?
Not
Welcome
too
back. It's good to
much.
be
In
back.
a while.
I know it's
All
good to
right.
be back.
Yeah. All right. Welcome back to the Just in Time podcast. I'm your host, Justin, and this is my guest, Will. We're getting right
What's up,
back
brother?
into the book.
How you doing, brother? Look, I know you got that glow after that championship. You got that glow in your eye.
Oh, yeah. It's
I
still
love
there.
it. I love it. That's what I know. I didn't say nothing
Uh,
earlier, but I love it. It's a beautiful
yeah.
thing, brother.
Yep. They
Beautiful
got that.
thing.
Forgot who asked me. I think it was a vet. Which championship was more special to be at, this one or 23? And at the time, I think I said 23, but considering I went to almost every single one of these games this year, other than the
Talking
ones
about
that were, freezing cold at the beginning of the year.
1 a.m.
I went to the 1 a.m., two 1 a.m. games, but the two Mississippi State games where they pushed it back and pushed it back, I didn't go to that one. I went to the Thursday night game.
Mhm.
Those are the only two. That's the only SEC series I didn't go to. I only went to one game, but just seeing the team grow from when I didn't think they were going to
Yeah,
progress just made it special, especially being in Frisco this year
yeah,
and meeting every single one of them and seeing how they truly like to hang out with each other.
yeah,
You know, that was
yeah,
special.
yeah. I know a lot of times, I know it can sound cliche for a lot of people, but one thing I hear pretty consistently about like a lot of successful teams, championship, especially at the championship level, that they really do bond. They have a strong bond. It's one thing, it's important to, and obviously ultimately come down to what you do on the field or on the court, whatever the case may be, but ultimately just having that continuity, it does really pay dividends down the road. Watching last year's team, 2020, the way they rebounded, I was like one of the two couple teams that I really, and we've been watching LSU baseball for years, but just how they
Yeah,
responded last year, but it was just a cut above this year. Obviously, even without the championship, just a cut above how more consistent they were. How like they have very impressive wins.
absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. The only thing I can think of that was more impressive is the last season at the box when they went on that, what, 23 game win
Yeah,
streak, I
that's
think it
right.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
They
so it's
just
just
truly, they got along and picked each other up.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important. Just going to the question that you were asked. I feel like I know a lot of that's so subjective. I feel like this year's team
Yeah.
is like was just better personally. I know 2023 had like the more celebrated high top heavy talent, but just like
Yeah.
what they were just so deep this year, especially on the mound. I mean, you couldn't go wrong on the mound, man. And like
I
it
know.
showed in the postseason. So yeah,
But it's just like every LSU team, something goes wrong, we need a guy to step up.
yep,
We didn't lose. We went undefeated in Omaha for the first time, and I don't remember how long.
yeah.
Probably since one of those '90s runs.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's because I mean, listen, we're gonna take like an L here and there, but they've been so
Yeah,
steady when they get there. Just I don't, it's
yeah,
not to worry too much. But
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, but both of Jay's teams that made it to Omaha, and even the team last year, you had guys as pitchers who were struggling going into postseason come in and just have the best games of their career,
yep. No time no matter.
or just step it up.
Mhm.
Like Casey Evans had been on all season,
Yeah, that's right.
except
Yeah,
for that one start against Arkansas.
yep.
The one start against Arkansas is when he just didn't have his stuff. But he came in against UCLA and he shut the door.
Yeah,
Got us that win in that game 3 we had to play.
yeah. It's just like I said, it's
Went
the
we
timeliness.
we went undefeated. Yeah. We went undefeated, but we still had to play 4 games to get to the championship this year.
Like we said a few weeks back, I said, listen, I don't care if it's a half a point to nothing. Season sports, even in double elimination, you just get it done for me. That's good. And like you said, they close the door. They close the door. Cade's starting game one performance, that was probably the best individual performance I've ever seen. Just like given the
Yeah.
circumstance, it was you talk about dominant. And I always talk about, in baseball, give me the pitching Obviously, I know pitches do wear down. So, and I'm not saying you cannot have offensive production, but that's the core of the team to me is the pitching. That's why you have the
Right.
staff. That's why you have the starting rotation, the bullpen, because you need guys because they can't play every day. So you need guys to really
Exactly.
step in. So just give me that core, that strong core. Ianson and Anderson, Shores. Shores was such a unit in himself, and I posted that on Reddit a couple weeks back. But just,
Do we think Shores should stay or go?
my heart tell me to send to stay. I guess because that'll bolster the lineup even more. But I mean, I can't
Yeah,
blame him for leaving. But just because of his size, it's just they can need
yeah,
a bit. He's a big league arm. I never like throwing 100 consecutively with just ease like that. I mean, it's hard to say no to the pros. I'm sorry, it's
yeah,
hard. Yeah, he did it so effortlessly.
yeah. My thing is though, we had him as a starter at the beginning of the season. He looked great against non-conference teams,
Yeah,
but really struggled against conference teams.
yeah.
My thing is, since he came in and he was struggling a little bit this year, he finally got it together. He's coming off of Tommy John. I think he should come back. I think he would be a weekend, maybe a Friday night guy.
Yeah, I could see that potential for sure. Like I said, he can definitely, like you said, and a great point about the in conference. If you can get that consistency down, I think that'll pay dividends for him because he has the stuff, he has the tools. Should I say? He has the tools for anybody in the country. But just like I would love to see him back, but I can't blame him if he leaves. Throwing 100, just
Yeah, I can't blame him if he leaves. It's just the amount of money he could make coming back
I
and the
agree
amount I see his draft stock. I think he could be a potential first round pick.
for sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
You already seen it this year with guys with stuff. You already see it. You gonna see it this year. Yeah. I could. Yeah, he has it.
in and out. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, it keeps cutting in and out. I don't know if it's stopped recording on your end.
it was still good for me. I mean, I know I saw you had froze up, but I mean, it didn't stop. I still
It's
got
my
like 840.
AirPods. They keep jumping in and out. I think I'm gonna make a change real quick.
Yeah.
To stop the recording now, I'll just have it cut all of this out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll just have it. All right. Let's see if this works better. My AirPods are dead. This is just these early morning starts. It's not ready. Like can't just get can't get itself together.
I mean, that's why you got backups and backups for the backups, brother. We just talk about the bullpen.
Yeah.
So we just talk about
I'm
the bullpen. That's what we do it
yeah. I'm gonna get me a mic set up sooner or later.
at the point in time. And tell me about that
Yeah, put a
pickleball camera too.
yeah. I'm gonna get that in due time. I gotta
Of course.
I wanna get a webcam too, so I don't have to be on the phone and have all these technical issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, back to what we were saying about sure.
Yeah. Yeah, just
I think it's a just
he has a potential for sure for that either way.
yeah. I think it would be good to come back. I think it'd be good to go. I think he's leaving a lot of money on the table.
So
He's leaving a lot of money on the table going, but he's have so much more potential in the next year
I agree for
because
sure.
it's just
Yeah.
like they were saying with Cade Anderson. I saw this week. He's got stuff to be the number one overall pick.
Mhm.
Some have him going down to the number three pick solely because of he's coming off of Tommy John surgery from his senior year in high school.
Yeah.
And they said different teams will tell you Tommy John surgeries last different lengths of time.
Mhm.
So it all boils down to when will they think he'll need the second Tommy John surgery? When will they think he'll need if he needs a third Tommy John surgery? When will they think he'll need those surgeries? But as of the 6 o'clock this morning, let's see who's wrote this. Kylie McDaniel has him going number one overall
That's right.
to the Nationals.
I remember the Nationals about a
Honestly, I
decade ago.
like
They had
that.
that great bullpen, man. 10 years ago, man, they were
Yeah.
dominant, bro. Oh my goodness. Speed
Oh,
codes,
were they?
man. Oh my goodness. I would say
Think
like
about
the
this.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Think about this. Washington probably didn't even look at Cade Anderson's name. They just saw LSU on the side of it and said, "We'll take him."
No, I remember you had talked to me about this the other day about joining former Tiger himself. So that'd be a great
Yeah,
storyline. But yeah, man, Matt, like I told you about skiing as well. I said, brother, I want my Yankees to get skiing. I don't care what it costs. But just listen, he needs to get out of Pittsburgh. But that's another story for
oh
another
yeah,
day. Another story for another day.
yeah.
Yeah,
He needs to get out of there. They're a sinking ship.
they've been there
Funny
for
they're
30
called the.
years.
It's funny they're called the Pirates, and
Can't
that
control the
ship's about
ship.
to burn.
Can't control that. Oh, I love the irony. I love it.
They almost need to be called the Titanic.
Trademark it. Trademark
Yep,
it.
they could change the Pittsburgh Titanics.
Man.
We'll hit the
Uh,
iceberg, not in the middle of the trip, at the beginning.
got the slogan and everything. That was funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I ain't
man.
never seen a team other than the Saints that completely fall apart.
On their own doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've been a dump for a better part of 30 years, man. It's unfortunate, but I always say like fans need to. I respect fanhood, just fandom. But there's a certain point where you got to pull back. Not to say you can't stop being a fan, but it's like you pour your money and resources to it, and you getting the same results back. You got to pull back a little bit. Got to pull back.
I'll never forget last year when they fired. I don't even remember the dude's name. What was it, Dennis Allen for the
Yep.
Saints?
After the Carolina game.
When they, yeah, when they fired him, I was sitting in a classroom, and they made that law. You can't have a cell phone in the class.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
I didn't even bother just because it was huge news to those kids who were diehard Saints fans.
Yeah, yeah.
They got the alert. Most of them, I will say this, most of them were on the computers, the Chromebooks. They just had the alert set. But there was one or two of them that the alert went off. They took their phone out. They looked at it, and I was like, okay, that's good. Put your phone up.
Hey,
That was huge because when I got it, I was like, oh,
yeah,
this is unexpected.
it was on the, it was, to me, I would say like, because he should have been fired like a year or so early, but he got the leash. Um, you know, kudos to him, I guess. Just getting that extra time. But when that Carolina lost, because it was like right when Carolina was about to turn it around down the stretch of the year, so I knew when he lost that game, I said, yeah, it's done. Because they seen enough.
Yeah. Was it the year before? Yeah, it was the year before with Winston when they told him to take a knee, and he just blatantly disregarded him, turned around and handed the ball off to get the dude his, what was
This
it, a
is some,
record?
yeah, yeah. This is like his contract incentive or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's when he should have been fired to me. Your team does not respect you enough
Exactly.
to listen to you. And you also don't have the respect enough to the players to give him that chance. So,
Yeah, and the thing is, I know we reference Matt Moscona a lot. Well, I do. I just like I know he was saying throughout the last couple of years, Dennis Allen was just a lieutenant general, like he just like the substitute teacher. So just like
exactly.
you see the parallels to that, just like you brought up, just the lack of respect, just the temporary fix. He's a high end D coordinator. That's where I think that's ultimately where he should be as an assistant, but
Yeah.
because his track record speaks, but it's just not as a head coach and ultimately got the axe.
We can draw parallels to him and Edo. Just Edo had more success, a little more success.
Yeah, just recruiting wise, I was obviously very animated and just caught lightning in the bottle for lack of a better phrase. But to his credit, I mean, you said college. I always say college coaching in college is harder because it's more involved with like dealing with the kids in the classroom, extracurriculars, and the recruiting. But especially now in this age, obviously, at least he got a title. Like I said, it was lightning in a bottle, generational
Yeah.
outlier team. But again,
Yeah. I think this might be the most talented LSU team that Brian Kelly will ever have.
Yeah, I agree. It's
And
like I
it's
said,
sad because yeah, it's sad because I don't think he's got it in him to win the big one.
like I know, yeah, I know you've been. I know you said that. I know one of my coworkers. He kind of feeling that same boat. I've always been a big fan of his. Like he restabilized Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Obviously, obviously it's an iconic program, but Charlie Weiss, he had success there, but he had Brady Quinn, who was statistically the greatest quarterback in the history of the school. He had Jeff
Yeah.
Samardzija, was like the top three pass catcher in the history of the school. He had that offensive support, but like Brian Kelly, but Brian Kelly really re-established him to a national power, at least going to the
See,
championship
that's
level.
funny you should bring that up because I think that's exactly why Brian Kelly was hired. He's not the championship winning coach. He's the restabilizer coach.
I mean, and some coaches do, and like that's what they're known for, like just the culture shift, like just to And I know it's LSU. It's not going to be as hard as others, like doing it at Villanova for football or Connecticut, but
Yeah.
it's still. I mean, we were a
That
dump for like 2 years.
that team that he inherited was, for lack of a better word, a shit show.
Yeah,
Edo, as much as we all loved Edo, he didn't leave that program in a very good place. And Brian Kelly was hired. We were in trouble with the NCAA and everything else. Brian Kelly was hired because he was a stable hire, he was a good, clean hire. And like you said, restabilize. We'll never win a championship under him.
yeah.
He's got the team up there. I mean, he did something in his first year that I think is the only reason he still has a job, especially after how last year ended.
Yeah, I think like 2022 is like that was probably the greatest coaching job I've ever seen since I've been a fan of the program. I mean, while growing up a fan, just that's the greatest coaching job, considering where they were at the end of it, and like a first year starter at LSU for Jaden. Just the way he turned it around in the second half. Really, I didn't expect us to play in the championship game, the SEC title game,
Yeah.
but like, and that was like one of the very few. That was probably like the only time where I wasn't really mad or disappointed about a loss because I didn't expect us to be there to begin with. And Georgia just was about to repeat. So I was like, you know what? This is a miracle in itself that they're here. And like, it's a great
Exactly.
coaching job. So I was like, we lost by 20. I said, listen, I don't support us losing. It's given the circumstance. I mean, what more can you ask for in that situation? Excellent coaching job. And like you said, to
Exactly.
restabilize it. We're best in our odd number seasons. If you look at history, even when we don't win a title in odd number seasons, there are a lot of historic stuff that happens. So we're about to enter an odd number season, like you said, a high end recruiting class, killed the portal. But there's plenty of time to really dive deeper into that. I'm just eager to see what they're gonna look like.
So you got time to talk about that. So
Yeah.
great transition,
Yes, sir. Look,
because we got that book with Texas A&M.
yeah, I love that chapter how it started
And
off. Oh my goodness.
let's see. I'm going to give you the exact quote. Some may think the LSU-Texas A&M rivalry began in November 2018 when the Aggies beat
Uh,
the Tigers 74-72 in a 7 overtime football game at Kyle Field in College Station.
oh, little do you know.
Little do you know, little do you know, we crushed their dreams back in '89.
Yeah, man. It's just
Yeah,
it was a like, and I was really excited to do these two chapters because I know it's like it's such a great tie-in. They go together, obviously because of
yeah,
A&M, but just like the rise of the program. They'd already been to
hmm,
a couple of College World Series under Berman, but really this was probably the most important team you could say in the history of the school. Not necessarily the best team with their history now, but just in hindsight,
yeah.
it's one of probably their most important team. Looking back on it, just reading it. So
And if you think about it, I remember when we were talking about the World Series this year and stuff. You know, I said we were going to be fine because we weren't under all that pressure.
That's
And
right.
this chapter is a great tie into that because Texas A&M had their best team ever,
Goodness, yes.
and they just gave it up.
Man, you know what's funny? Real quick on that, I put a question. I wanted to ask you a question about that section because I was saying like, who you think is more heartbroken out of A&M or Arkansas? Because A&M like, so it's like didn't have a championship to this point. Even because I reason I bring that up real quick because I know we're gonna get all the details in a second, but I
Yeah,
bring it up because obviously Arkansas is like the big heartbreak story, you know, really in their school, like, you know, obviously with the way their basketball season ended and the
yeah,
Sweet 16, and but this is the baseball team. Just they were one fly out away from winning a couple years ago. They had the error in the outfield against us. You know, it's just and then but like I said, I'm just curious about your take because going and I bring that up because A&M last year with the Jim Schlossnagle fiasco, which is still rubs me the wrong way. You know,
it rubs
it's just
everybody the
very,
wrong way.
very, very classless, very smug. But I mean,
Yeah,
that's terrible. But anyway, just who you think is more heartbroken,
honestly,
real quick?
just because they took that 7 overtime game and Jimbo Shrimp had a big poster, a picture of it, and it was all painted down their hallways and stuff, and they got actual rings for beating LSU in a regular season game. Like that's exactly why they'll never win anything of value ever because they celebrate games that don't matter, like they do, like it's the national championship.
You would think like with a program with that, with a great, you know, great football state, iconic football state, great tradition, obviously great atmosphere. They got everything they need to be successful,
Hmm.
but they just don't get over. They don't make take that next step.
Here's the deal: they do have in baseball. I don't know. I can't speak for the cult leader of the football team, but for baseball, they do have a. If you watch it on TV over there, and they do have a great atmosphere.
Without question.
But
Blue Bell Park, oh yeah.
what they lack, what they lack, and why it'll never get them anywhere, they lack baseball knowledge. 'Cause, when they played that game against LSU, I think it was game one. They threw batteries, ice, rocks off the
Yep.
railroad
And
at
these are
our
from the
fans.
cadets too. The cadets
Yeah,
was the I'm like, bro, like how I put classy.
Big
Very
Macs
classy.
at they threw Big Macs at Ben McDonald.
That shit. Like y'all unhinged.
Yeah, they gave their fans gave LSU everything they needed to beat them, but Skip just went in there and added that little extra.
It's okay. All right. It's a wartime, so you know what that means.
Yeah, gave him a speech.
That's it. All the way and the only way he can do it.
Hmm.
The way only he can do it.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me, and I think I put this in the notes. I just don't know where it's at. Kind of reminded me of when
Central.
we went to Venture threw batteries at us and
Yeah.
they beat us. I don't think I ever beat Central when we were at Catholic.
Central was tough. They
Yeah,
used to like, yeah, they were tough.
but our sophomore year when we went to Florida and played, I think it's Pine Forest,
Yep.
and they were ranked high in the country, and we were
Yeah.
kind of struggling at that point in the season. But they
Yeah.
went and put on the board, like not the board, but we walked in that stadium, and the first thing we saw is a huge banner that said "Crucify the Catholics."
Uh, uh,
Welcome, crucify the Catholics. That lit a fire under us,
yeah, I bet.
pissed
Because my thing is
Weiner and
like,
all the coaching staff off. They went, the school people that went with us, the administrators and stuff, all the coaching staff went straight to that school's office and told them they had to take that down. But that lit a fire under us, and we won.
absolutely. And I remember it. The thing is, like, you gotta love sports because it's you see the passion from people, but it's like there's a line that has to be drawn. I mean, like even like
Exactly.
this the stuff that we do as it's like, bro, y'all gotta calm because it's not just about you're making a scene, but you're endangering people. And a lot of times when you do that stupid stuff, hey, listen, be routed. I mean, I know, listen, I can stop you from talking trash. I mean, some stuff that's funny, but it's like all some of the hand gestures. I mean, even then, it's it could you got to draw a line at some point. And like doing stuff like that. I mean, like what they were doing, throwing the big mats is a creative idea, but throwing batteries and rocks
Yeah.
at I'm like, bro, y'all have to chill out with that.
Go chill out with the batteries and the rocks. You go hurt
Yeah.
somebody and then we go start a fight.
And see, this is back then. This is before we had like, all the phone charges now. So like, listen. You need to keep the batteries for the remote control. So it's like look. Don't cry to me. We don't have no batteries for your remotes. Don't have batteries for this. Don't have batteries for that. You wasted that.
Yeah.
Use it for
That's
something
what
useful.
that's when batteries
That well, yeah, you were right. They were cheap, but they still have value.
and it,
Well,
that was
back in my
back in the
day,
day. That was back in the day when batteries were cheap before inflation hit and you got to pay $20 for a 4 pack.
for a 4 pound, I'm like that. Y'all got to be kidding me. And like y'all charging that, and we don't even. I don't even use batteries like I used to. It's all about chargers.
Exactly.
But it's like that's a whole other thing.
Best thing I bought off of Amazon was a pack of rechargeable batteries.
Smart man, bro. Because you had like the outlet thing where you plug it in. Smart.
Hmm.
That's right. That's smart right there.
Yeah, but just you know, going into this game, LSU had played. If I'm, what was it like 5 games
It was like
up to
five
that
games
point?
and like 5 games is 6 or 7 days. It was they had a lot of miles even in that short
It was.
time.
Yeah, I think that was back in the day where they had 8 teams in a regional.
Yeah, it was because yeah, like bringing that up, it was the regional was so stacked, like just because not only it was a deep regional, but it was because coach said they sent us to College Station to make it a great crowd. We should have been somewhere to make it a more balanced regional. And then
Balanced.
he said that
Yeah,
really got. He said it really got to him, and I had to do something because like the region had like a combined 200 man, bro, 264, and the team with the fewest was Jackson State, and they had 32.
yeah. So
The worst team in the region had 30 wins plus.
yeah.
That's
So
outrageous.
it is outrageous. I mean, they do that all the time to LSU. When LSU's not hosting, they'll send us. There could be 15 regionals along the South Coast, the Southeast Coast, and have one in Oregon or one in California. They'll send LSU to California or Oregon to play.
'Cause I know a lot of people talk about the Arkansas deal in the World Series, the draw. That didn't really bother me because I mean it's a smaller field
We were
by
gonna have to.
default. You got to play
We
in
were gonna have to
double
beat
elimination.
them. Yeah, we were gonna have to beat them anyway.
Exactly. So that didn't bother me as much at all. But I get the take behind that. But this is just
Yeah,
even for its time, that's just outrageous. 64 combined. And it's not about like avoiding competition because you have to play them is in a multiple elimination. But I
exactly.
mean, 264 wins, bro. That's in a one region. Yeah, you're doing
Hmm.
yourself a
Then
disservice.
we had to go back. We had to go back and play. We went in the losers bracket, so we had to win to get there.
Yeah.
Some of our heavy hitting pitchers threw multiple games.
Yeah, man. That's
I think the only one who didn't throw in that 4 game stretch or 5 game stretch before they got to A was McDonald, Ben McDonald.
yeah.
And even then, I think he started the first game against A&M, and I think he pitched in the back half of the second game.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
But I just like how the team in this book they repeatedly say team hit like when his teams showed ownership.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to his
And
his
one of
ownership after in a while,
yeah,
but yeah, just
and
but
one of
I
the
love that
things
point.
that they did when those guys took over and they said we had hit enough, we've been in that heat enough. In that first game, they were in Texas A&M's locker room with AC. So instead of going, some of the guys went hit, but the majority of them went and they took a nice cool nap in that locker room. Just a nice cold nap. Woke up refreshed and ready to play.
Yeah, just like and like one of the fascinating things about chapter 3 was just the he Berman talked about, being under pressure. Them, not them, but just A&M. He said under
Yeah,
pressure it's different. They'll soften just as they did the 2 previous seasons in the regional finals. Because A&M had 16 double-digit wins that season, but didn't have the toughest schedule, right? So
yeah,
it was, and they rolled through the bracket. But here was the thing: we didn't watch any of the games, and like that was mind you back in the time where the teams they were watching each other play when they weren't playing themselves. And I know LSU's assistant Jim Wells had brought that up. He said his responsibility, or one of his tasks, was just to find entertainment for the team, whether that was his movie, like
yeah,
going to a movie, eating out, and this was crazy in itself. They said Texas A&M was so confident in themselves. They said tickets for a second game versus South Alabama weren't even printed.
yeah.
It showed the dominance. I'm like, okay, brother, God bless you, but
That's
yeah,
confidence.
I respect it to an extent. I do. But I'm like, you gotta be
But at this point,
responsible
I don't know
too.
if that's confidence or arrogance on their
Yeah, I mean,
part.
to I was to not print the
Because you know
ticket.
they just Texas A&M just has a history of not showing any respect.
And this is a military
They
school now, right?
haven't won. They haven't won the big one ever. They'll never win the big one, and they showed that much lack of respect.
Yeah,
Like when they played their walk-up songs for their hitters,
yeah,
which
that's
wasn't
right.
allowed in postseason play.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
and all of that to say LSU beat them, and that wasn't even back in the day when we had back in the time when we started traveling to
Yeah, it
baseball.
was.
There was only
That's
200
right.
people there,
Basically, like
and
family and friends. That's it. Essentially.
yeah,
That's that.
and they threw those cadets threw rocks and everything at those poor people.
That's terrible. I'm like, bro, it's like, and y'all, you are a military background student, and y'all clowning like, man,
Hmm.
I know you're college, but I mean,
Yeah,
I'm like, bro, like I said earlier, it's a draw. You got to draw a line or something. Because if you don't
leave
do
the
that,
rocks.
you
Got to leave the rocks in high school.
leave the rocks at the playground. It's one thing if you're kicking up dirt and rocks on the swing,
Yeah,
but keep them there.
but it's like I said a couple episodes ago about our student section. This isn't Texas and this isn't Tennessee. We don't throw stuff at players and we don't throw stuff on the field and we don't stuff don't go our way.
Now, I will say this, like back up when I was very young, I used to sell rocks. After church, we went to the playground and said we had like a fake
Hmm.
stand that said rocks for sale. So maybe it's my fault. So look, but see, you know what? Like Coach Berman did, I take accountability. It's my Lord, that's on me. That's on
You
me.
you went to Texas A&M College Station and sold him rocks on that train track.
But that must have been me. Well, I'm gonna take accountability. They may
All
not, but
right.
I will. That's on me,
Then we have the great pillage the village speech.
brother. So for those who don't know, I'm gonna tell y'all definition of pillage: to rob a place in parentheses, to rob using violence, especially in wartime. Listen, postseason, man, that's wartime. I know
Yep.
you go through the battles, you go through the battle during the season, but it's to prep you up. This is where it really
Uh,
counts, especially even without having a championship at that point yet, we were on the rise. And like it was to see them so invested on that journey, that season. That's why I say it's the most important team in the history of the program. Because just you see the motion jump through the page.
this was
And
89.
yes.
So we do all of this. We go up there and we beat a team who had 16 double digit wins,
Yes.
had everything going into their season, rode through the bracket, and it's just like he said. He looked at the guys, he's told them, look 'em after we win game one, when we're switching dugouts, look them in the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah,
They'll
that's
be
right.
shocked. They'll be
Yes.
shocked, and we'll win. game 2.
That's right. One of my
Yep.
favorite parts was just like the bulldog. Skip Bertman had it was quoted like bulldog, the bulldog out the hatch. Excuse me. Uh, Freshman from Lake Charles, man. He got hit with an open wound. He said, I'm not coming out of this game. Now this is a freshman from Lake
Yeah.
Charles, the biggest game of his life to that point. And he said, a bulldog was born. I said that's epic.
When they looked at it, they thought he broke a bone.
Yeah.
They thought he
That's
had a
right.
fracture, but he went out there and he just mowed them down.
Yeah, man.
And that's what I'm talking about. LSU has a history of kids, either they come out of nowhere in the postseason or during the regular season, they don't have the greatest start.
Yeah.
But come postseason, they wake up. And he's one of the big reasons why we beat them in game 1, 13-5.
Yep.
And they had to make those makeshift tickets.
Yep, I love that quote in there. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. Like, because it said game 2 with when they said with some makeshift ticket. Because remember, like, I love the tie-ins. I love when stuff like books or the shows movie they tie it back in from early in the episode, early in the
Yeah.
season, whatever oh, that's a perfect tie back. And I was like, I was laughing out loud when I saw that. It was so, I thought it was too perfect. I said, oh yeah, you mean
Yeah.
you weren't prepared? Yikes.
Yeah. What he
I mean,
Bertman on why he let him pitch instead of McDonald. I expect to win the tournament. I didn't come here to just make a good showing.
yeah, see like the brack, like the commit, they wanted a good showing. And it was gonna be a good
Yeah.
story. But regardless of what you put us in, he was such a masterful motivator. So we're gonna do what we have to do. So
Yeah.
I love that he went around like he says to listen flat out. I don't care what look, we're better than them. He goes around the room and compares each A&M starting position to his starters. And like you said earlier, they take it down. I said, listen, we're not going to watch no games. I said, listen,
Mm-hmm.
they go let them hype themselves up. Let the media hype them up all they want to. Let the fans hype them up. Listen,
Exactly.
I know what I got. I know what I got in this room. I know the
Yeah.
culture that I've
And what did
built
we
in the
do?
last 5 years. We beat them in game
Oh
2.
yeah. What did we do? We beat him in game 1, 13-5. Then he tells them after that, look at their eyes, and you'll see they weren't expecting that. They're scared now.
Yep. He was right again.
Yeah.
Man,
Now, for game 2, some powerful stuff.
yeah, that's right.
When they did the hook 'em horns to mock the Aggie fans.
That is epic right there, bro. I can imagine being what after the dog fresh off the dog pile, it came up look with the dog pile and all man in College Station.
Yep.
That's tough right there.
Come off the dog pile, and
That, and then do the
Espinosa gives A&M fans the only finger that matters in a great display around them. Put on a
you know
clinic.
what's funny? Like they said in the book, just he wasn't even. They said he wasn't even thinking about Omaha at that moment. I said, listen, I'm trying to get back at y'all because y'all was petty to us. I know y'all at home,
Oh,
but
yeah.
nigga had some class too. I said, listen, Omaha's gonna be there when we get there, but guess what? You gonna get.
Huh?
I'm gonna live in this parting shot.
Went and gave him the only finger that mattered. And put on a clinic on how to do it, too.
Yeah, with the bits. That was DIY back in the
I think that's
man.
a
That is
direct quote from the book that he put
yeah, it
on a
was it.
clinic on how to do that.
That's right. So it's funny. I don't man. But yeah, just and it just like one of the obviously the chapter starts off, in every chapter they have like the quote at the top, Coach said you can't underestimate the power of the mind. These guys believe they can win. And he said this is at the top, this is his greatest accomplishment in any of his 28 years of coaching. And just that is further confirmation for me is that his greatest coaching job is the most important coaching job because now this is mind you, this is a program with even with its recent success in the late 80s, they hadn't won a title yet. But you can see
Mm-hmm.
momentum building as you go along.
Yeah.
Now, and that's why
And
it's
you
so
can
important
see,
to look back at those teams.
it's the,
Anyway.
and they, every time a player goes and they talk in this book, like Warren Morris referenced it, and it's about the players who built
Yes.
the system.
Absolutely.
The players that came before and help build the system to get you where you need it to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And this 89 team was just that team, that last team, I mean, 90 was there too, but they don't really talk about 90 in the book.
Right.
They talk about 89, and 89 was the team that probably should have won it.
And Skip mentioned that. We're gonna get to that
Yeah,
shortly. Yeah. It's
we're gonna
just
get to that in a few.
like I know in Proverbs 23:7, said, "For as a man thinketh, so is as far as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." So it's powerful, when you got to renew the mind, and the Word of God says it every day because there's so many in the fleshly body. You're gonna get attacked by the devil all the time. But it's just like, do you have the foundation in Christ? So the Word of God speaks for itself. It applies, but that's why you don't speak of just anything. You can't. You have to be cautious with your lips, cautious with your thoughts. You got to take those captive. That's not of God. So
Yeah,
coach, he really sent that home to his players. I said, listen, you the reason you're here, like you got talent, the talent's given. I mean, you come with talent, but what separates you more? I mean, you could be a dominant player, and that's important. Don't get me wrong, but just it's a lot of it's mental, emotional, and like they put so much emotionally into this series. Now I know we're gonna bring up that
hmm
like it kind of backfired with injury, but even still, like how important this series, this stretch of time was for this program, even looking back on it, because people not going they're going to talk about these championships they won, and rightfully so, but it started with
yeah.
guys like these. So just like that's why it's that important.
I think I'll bring it back to this year. You had two teams that were probably emotionally in the same place that LSU was back in '89 with Murray State. So it's amazing. Murray State is an amazing story.
Yeah,
You know, all the way to the fans where the coach said we don't even charge for the regular season games, and they made this trip to Omaha and paid all this money to come watch us play.
that's amazing. It's such a
Yeah.
great story. Yeah, yeah, and,
So
and the
they
thing is,
come in the first game and they're just not emotionally ready to handle that. You know, N- because of that rain delay, they ended up staying the extra day in Omaha.
all right,
But they just weren't. I think no, they didn't because that game pushed us. We were their last game that day, so they pushed us back. But in Arkansas, had to play their rival Tennessee to get there. Emotional hangover.
that's what happened. I mean, it just. The thing is going to chapter 4, it's just and I just put it like the emotional roller coaster from conversation lingered into Omaha. And like Pete Bush said, listen, it wasn't physical because they felt like they were physically ready, but because
They
he
had
said we
enough
had the
time to
rest,
rest.
they had the rest and the naps. He said it was just straight mental. And
Yeah.
we
So
dropped
when
we
you
dropped it.
come, what you were gonna say?
But I was just gonna say like we lost to Miami 5-2 to drop in the losers bracket. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you got, you come off of that, but you come off of a regional where you think, oh, this was the best team in the country. We just handled them in two. We're gonna win it all.
yeah,
Just to run into a buzzsaw and some unforeseen issues.
yeah. It was, and it does kind of take the wind out of the sail. Just like Ben just wore down. Like I said, and I know like Coach here, brother. He said he should have started McDonald on that Friday because like assuming the like relievers would have beaten Texas on Thursday. But it's just like I said, and that's what he said. Okay, here's where I made my greatest mistake. It's interesting because it's graphic. And he said I said he was worn down because he had the bloody injury. That was just nothing but
Yeah,
blood
and
on the balls.
they said he was just wiping blood off.
Yeah, and they just
And
had
no
to
wonder
get rid of.
Texas yeah, no wonder Texas hit him so bad.
Yeah,
He had that much blood on the ball. It was just instead of being white and blending in, it was red.
and then like it was an interesting point that they made in the book, and then realized that McDonald he already pitched in the Summer Olympics the year before.
Yeah.
And so in '98, like in and they won gold. So it wasn't like they were knocked
Yeah,
out in group play or nothing like that. That's a lot of
yeah, and
pitching.
that's a lot of pitching. Even if he took the fall off,
Yeah, that's it. That's a
yeah,
lot of pitching, especially on a young body. It's just
yeah,
man, that's such a like, and I love that they mentioned that. Obviously, it's factual evidence, but it's just you see the context behind all that stuff adds up because you have the physical demands and you have the emotional demands of that series. It
exactly.
does add up. But
Back to that, just back to that game too, because I had something I
yeah, of
wanted to
course.
ask you.
Yeah,
Because
of course.
you're more of the rule guy. Is the rule
But
still in the? Is it still a rule that you could take your starting pitcher and put him at a position place? Put him in
to
a
be honest, it's a good question. I don't know exact because I was shocked to
right
see
field
that. Yeah,
because they said in game two he put him in right field in case he needed him to come back in.
that's a great question. I mean, I just that's a very interesting strategy. Like I said, that I'm not sure about because I was going to bring up, that's why in pit and like in the postseason, the pitching changes are so sensitive, and and I see this, and you see this all the time, but especially I paid attention to it even more than ever this year, because like whether it was West Virginia, whether it was like even playing Little Rock, West Virginia,
Yeah,
going to Coastal, it's like they switched out so much, even when we had the leads. But I mean, because you do not want to give these guys momentum, and
yeah,
like it's just. But I mean, he just like he said, he wanted to play coach wanted to basically play the long game. Just
yeah.
but not, and like it's tough. He took accountability, which I highly respect. I mean, the body just his body just wore down. I mean, it's just like because he's like a number one overall pick pitcher. So I mean, I'd be more inclined to play him anyway because he has that draft stock, and but he's been a pillar of your program, especially pre championships. I would have probably done the same thing.
Yeah. And after this season,
Yeah.
Hartman only went on in the next 12 seasons. He won 5 national championships in
Yep.
10 years in 91, 93, 96, 97, and 2000.
It's a beautiful thing. And the thing is, it's like, and it's as successful as he's been, he brings it up like, that he didn't blame the injury. He said he blamed himself because he said we had six
Yeah.
big leaguers on that pitching staff. And mind you, it was a pitching staff that combined for 60 Major League Baseball seasons. 60.
Mhm.
Just like now, like I said already, just it reminds me how those mound decisions are in the postseason. But like you
Yeah.
said, those five championships are a great consolation prize.
Yeah. And if you think about it, this is how dominant they were.
Yeah.
The only seasons, let me just make sure I get this right. Yeah, the only seasons after that 89 win that they didn't make it to Omaha under Bertman were
Yeah.
92, 95, 99, and his last season in 2001.
Yep. That's right.
So out of the next 12 years, I think that was, they made it to Omaha every year except for four.
Yep. It's just, man, he
That's
was
it.
dominant, man. That's
That was a
unbelievable.
dominant. Yeah. We will get into it later on with that whole, when it gets into those chapters, that his ability to adapt to the changing game.
That's one thing I always say about excellent coaches, high-end coaches, like their adaptability, not just with in-game adjustments, but with the shifts in the landscape. And like, especially with like even with your own teams, like, obviously personnel has a lot to do with that, but are you rigid enough to stick to when work as in my way and it's gonna work, but you
Yeah,
placate to your roster as well. Now, don't be rigid,
exactly.
be rigid in culture, be rigid in work ethic, accountability, hard work, focus, be rigid in that, but be more flexible when it comes to your roster and the landscape change.
Like, see, okay, that time between '01 and Maneri's first year was, I think, in 2007.
Yes.
I remember those years because I went to those games and I watched those games. I didn't realize the shift in the game. And I think that's where Smoke had issues and why nobody really remembers LSU had a baseball team between 2001 and 2007.
Uh, just like you sandwich in between two national championship winning coach doesn't help. But like you said,
Yeah.
he had a short. I'm sorry. So granted, he had a short window of time, but like you said, that's a great point that you bring up. That's how sensitive it is, because it's hard to like. I know, and I get it. I mean, he had a lot of success in this as a top assistant, but I mean, you still have to get to a point where at least get somebody around you to help see that consistently. I mean, like I said, you can only do so much, but
Like, so when you get to Maneri wins his first and only national championship. The game changes. The bats
yes.
change. The game changes on him. It's more of a pitcher's game, more of a defensive game. He makes a shift. What gets him at the end is a lot of things, injury, loss, but he never did adapt back to the game.
And it's interesting you bring that up because especially with some coaches, especially when they have early success where they have like I always bring back Les Miles, so first year 11-2, second year 11-2, third year win a national championship. So he's like what 36 and 4, what 34-6 his first 3 years at LSU. When you have that early success, it's tough to be you're gonna be more rigid. And like we saw that for like the next
Exactly.
10 years. Especially when you had that early
Yeah.
success too. Yeah,
But
it's
unlike
tricky.
Les Miles, Paul Maneri had to go through and make his own team. You can make the argument for his first 3 seasons at LSU, Les Miles was heavily with talent from Nick Saban's team.
Yeah, so yeah, the foundation was laid. I know, like, and I always give Les credit for like going back to the title game and the deepest, the most dominant conference run ever. Like you said, it's
Yeah.
just like so, and that's because I remember asking my dad years ago. He said, and I asked him like, and we was just talking about just that with Nick and Les. I said like, that's what makes a coach shed that knock against him, like, "Oh, well, you used with so and so players." He said,
Yeah.
go back to the championship game with your own."
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
that's what he
And now
did.
if you think about, speaking of that last blunder of a national championship game Les Miles went to, if you ever want to know how big LSU football is in Baton Rouge and South Louisiana, our senior year of homecoming, the dance got moved up
Yes,
to 12
indeed.
o'clock, to 12 o'clock so we could watch the game.
Man, so because obviously originally it was like, in football they flex the games here and there, so it was originally gonna be like a mid-afternoon game, like on the classic CBS window. But then,
Yeah.
a couple times a year on CBS, SEC on CBS, they'll move it in the prime time. Because I remember a couple years we played Florida in prime time.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then they moved. I was like, this is a massive deal because
And that was
homecoming was like in the
rightfully so.
afternoon. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
it was
course. Yeah. So
rightfully
they
so. We were
flexed it.
1-2.
Yeah. So yeah, it was 1 and 2 in the cut. It was perfect for it. Roll game,
What did
like
they call it?
the
What did they
game of the
call it? The
century.
game of the century?
Oh, yeah.
And it lived up to it. I mean, there was no
Yeah.
touchdown scored. It was a very defensive game. Field goals. Honestly, if Bama had made a few more field goals, they would have won that game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the thing is, just like that, it was so devastating when we lost because like that was like I didn't finish watching the game because I came straight in the room and went to bed in that title game because
Yeah.
it was devastating because like I I have such a deep connection with that team because I go back and watch their highlights all the time.
Yeah.
Like just like because I know like to be honest with you, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I watched the old 2011 highlights more than the 19 team because like I have a deep connection. I mean, it's my school and I went
Yeah.
there. But that 2011 team was so special defensively, man. They deserved the
Yeah.
title. They were
That was
dominant,
back
though.
before. That was back when how I was at one of the games, okay? And it was, I think, 15,
Yeah.
and one of the event staff guys, it was in the middle of the day for a Florida game, and both teams just were horrible at tackling and hitting. And the event staff guy said, you know, back in the day, a blind man could go in the stands and know exactly what was happening. You could hear the hits.
Yes.
Blind man can go in the stands and hear the game. Yeah, but you know, to close it out, you wanted to
Club,
read
what
the
up?
poem at the end of the chapter.
That's the thing. I was about to get on. I was about to bring that up because I want to mess up. This is too perfect, man. I'm scared to mess it up. I'm gonna try. Take me out to the ball yard. Take me out to see Skip. Where the bathrooms are clean and the coffee's hot. Football mentality he has. Where's root for Skip Berman? If they don't win, he's not to blame. And this the part gives me a heater. He'll light, he'll smile, and say that's baseball at the old ball game. That's how you end the chapter right there, brother.
Oh yeah,
That's how you end the chapter.
that's how you end the chapter.
I love it. I was reading it yesterday. I was like, yeah, I'm a method. I'm a botch it. But I said, praise the Lord, I got it. Consider.
Yeah,
And
you
I'm not a
got it.
singer. Yes,
Yeah,
gave my best
hey,
shot.
you nailed that.
Thank you. Praise the Lord. 'Cause
You're
I
welcome.
was I was nervous. Yeah.
Yep. Well, all
Yeah,
right,
man.
man.
It's
I gotta
always
get
good.
going.
Always a
It's
pleasure,
always a
brother.
good one.
Yes, I'm glad to be back on the show, brother. You be safe, bro.
You too. Like we always
Yes, sir.
say, have a good night, a good morning, or whatever you gotta have. Just make it a good one.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll
Appreciate it,
catch you
brother.
later.
All right, brother.
All right.